All right, guys, just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for Week 14 contest between Georgia and Georgia Tech. 12.5-point favorites are the Bulldogs. 59.5 is the total. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC Friday afternoon from Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be the site for this one. Getting things started with the Bulldog offense on that Tech defense. For Georgia, this is an offense that's continuously gotten better week to week and has a lot to do because of the play of Gunnar Stockton, who I think has been one of the top quarterbacks in the country this year. And he's really proved it on a weekly basis, and he's not getting enough respect, it seems. This is a guy who week 3 against Tennessee was playing from behind and was very accurate and polished. Same against Ole Miss, where their defense was getting obliterated, and he was having to make a lot of big plays because if they got down if they had the opponent one time or had one turnover, they could have potentially been down 2 scores in that one. He completed 84% for 289 and 4 scores in that contest. He's been very accurate. His poise, his polishness has been very impressive this year. He had to play from behind against Florida there in the second half as well, making some big plays in critical situations. And he's doing this with a bit of a oddball wide receiver group because this isn't a team that has a lot of alphas. None of these guys are probably top 20 in the country. Not even Zachariah Branch, who does a lot of damage on screens. He's really good with his speed, but as a natural pass catcher is not the greatest. Colby Young, he's out for an extended period of time. London Humphreys has had to step up, make some big plays. Noah Thomas has had a disappointing year, but he's starting to come around. 16 receptions, 4 of them for touchdowns, including 2 against Texas. The tight ends have been great. Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky. Dylan Bell's a bit of a Swiss Army knife, also kind of lackluster in terms of production. So it's not the greatest receiving room, right? He's doing it. He's doing a great job when it comes to just dishing the ball around as a game, not even a game manager, right? Just a guy who's great at being a point guard, I guess, for this offense. The Georgia rush attack last year was very sluggish, and this year it's been great. I mean, this is a team that's putting up a strong margin, 190 yards per game, and they really struggled to hit 200 often last year. And this season they've been doing it very well. They've been very consistent against some top tier opponents when it comes to more so physicality than explosiveness. But against Mississippi State, you saw some explosiveness. I thought against Texas they did a good job of staying on track and ahead of the sticks. They only had 128 yards in that game against an elite run defense, but I thought they did very well. Nate Frazier, the guy who's had some issues with ball security at times, 701 yards, 5 touchdowns, really earned his running back one role back against Mississippi State in his performance there, where it seemed like he was in flux. I thought Chauncey Bowens was really starting to get a better share of the reps. And of course, the aforementioned Stockton's been great with his 8 rushing touchdowns on 361. So this is a really good rushing attack. They're built on physicality because it's an offensive line that has so much size. Monroe Freeling has been great for them at left tackle. Micah Morris at left guard's been tremendous. Center Drew Bobo's having a splendid season. The right side's been a little bit more of an issue for him. Ernest Green's working his way back in from injury. He's going to be the starting right tackle, it appears, the rest of the year. And then Dontrell Glover, the mainstay at right guard, but it's not been a great position for them. Still a lot of size, just a lot of youth that's really plaguing them there. Against the Georgia Tech defense that, coming into the season, I did not feel they would improve at all. I thought they would be right around the same level they were last season. And on the stat sheet, they are 25.6 points per game allowed in 24, 25.8 this season. So in a sense, I was right, but I didn't expect them to fall off a cliff here in the month of November. They've been terrible the last 3 games. They've given up 8 yards per play against NC State and Boston College. Then against Pitt, they weren't very good, giving up 412 yards. They had a chance late in that game. They still ended up allowing a long rushing touchdown. They've just not been very good, and I don't really know why they've not been able to continue to build upon the momentum they built in the early part of the year. But even against Duke, they were getting torched, came up with some big plays to win that game. Against Wake Forest, they were awful. So, I mean, it's really been a problem all year. Not great against the run, not great against the pass. The pass rush isn't all that good. I think the defensive line has some nice players. Jordan Vandenberg, 10.5 tackles for loss for him. He's tremendous. Amontre Bradford, Akilo Stone on the defensive line have been respectable. We just don't have that many pass rushers. Don't really have much of a threat coming off the edge. I do think that they have a nice group of linebackers led by Kyle Eford. EJ Lightsley is a nice athletic specimen. Omar Daniels as well. He's more of a guy that plays in the secondary, but he's a guy that gets involved a little bit in the box. I think that's the strongest group for them. Cayman Spalding, another one of those guys at linebacker. He's not been very great in coverage. None of them really have been. But when it comes to playmaking and being good against the run, that's really where they stand out. This secondary, they've not been great either. Amari Harvey, Zachary Tobe, seems like they've just progressively gotten worse when it comes to defending. The safety group led by Clayton Powell Lee and the aforementioned Daniels, who's great in coverage, not so much in run, while Lee is awful in coverage, pretty good against the run. Don't get confused there, but it's just pure opposites, polar opposites of what they have at safety, and that's been a big problem for them, just trying to find consistency. And against this Georgia defense, I mean, how are they going to improve all of a sudden? It's going to be hard to assume they will. Obviously, in a rivalry game, anything can happen, but it's in a neutral site. It's not even in their home stadium, so it's going to be hard to play with that energy that you would typically see. So I anticipate Georgia having a field day with balance here against Georgia Tech's defense. And if the Yellow Jackets want to keep up, that goes to the other side of things. Their offense, led by Haynes King. This is a tremendous group. This guy's a great leader. Had a phenomenal effort last year in a game in Athens. They should have won. That went to a billion overtimes. He had 400 plus yards and 5 scores. He did have a costly fumble at the end, unable to get the job done at the end of the day after what was an impressive performance. So, he's itching to get a second shot here against this team. He's got 27 total touchdowns on the year, 4 interceptions. This is a guy that puts up 340 yards per game. I mean, King is just such a gutsy player. He's going to go out there and he's going to lay it on the line. This is a guy that has a lot of physicality, good playmaker. He's been very accurate this season. This is a team that's not built to play from behind because they love to control tempo. They love to control clock with the Buster Faulkner offense. That's very difficult for these tough opponents to defend. Georgia found that out last year, as did Miami. A lot of jet sweeps, a lot of downhill running, a lot of QB run, a lot of misdirection. They like to do play action off of that, get guys into the flat or down the seams vertically as well. Tough offense to defend for Georgia Tech. Their run game against Pitt was not that good. It's a good run defense for Pitt. I know they had some issues against Notre Dame, of course, but for the most part, in conference play, they've been great, and they showed that against GT. And it makes you think, how good will they truly be in this contest, because the efficiency is just kind of taking a decline this year as the seasons went on, very inconsistent, just because Jamal Haynes has not did anything at running back this year. I know it's considered a good 1-2 punch. He's just been awful. I mean, he's not been able to find over 50 yards really at all in conference play, only once against Virginia Tech, and that was pretty much it. I mean, it's just not been a good year from him from an explosive standpoint, really just a production standpoint either. Malachi Hosley, though, has emerged 628 yards and 7 touchdowns. Kind of been an unsung hero for this backfield. He's coming off a 100-yard performance against BC. Only had 1 carry last week against Pitt. This is a run game that can do damage at any time, though, due to the play calling and due to the variations of things that they can provide for a defense to have to monitor. Georgia, they're going to be well prepared for this, I think. Their defensive line, very stout, led by Christian Miller. This is a team that is obviously very good against the run. They always have been. It's not going to change. Last year in this game, though, they struggled bad. 260 yards that they allowed. That misdirection and the off-balanceness really caused them issues, and I think that's going to be something that Kirby's going to look to shore up this week. C.J. Allen at linebacker, is he going to play? He's considered week to week. Likely not. I think they're just going to keep him out for this game, get him ready for the playoff run. Seems to be the smartest thing to do. This is a team that has a group at defensive line outside of Miller. It doesn't have too many standouts, and if you lose another one in your front seven with Allen, that could potentially cause problems against this tough scheme. Raylan Wilson, though, is more than able to fill in as an alpha, and the signal caller, Chris Cole, Justin Williams, they provide great athletic ability. Cole's been a nice pass rusher for them. That's a group that's been really struggling this year for Georgia, only 16 sacks. They've found a little bit of rhythm the last couple of weeks, though. They've got 8 over the last 3 weeks, so half their sacks on the year have come over the month of November, and Cole is a big reason for that. C.J. Allen was a good pass rusher for them also from his interior linebacking position, so we'll see how much they're really lacking. With Georgia Tech, they're going to look to try and put them in long downs and distances, and they're not really going to be able to thrive in those. I know the Georgia secondary struggled at times this year when it comes to downfield shots. They don't really have many ball hawks. This is kind of an undersized receiving room for Georgia Tech. I think Eric Rivers is a burner. Isaiah Canyon can make some tough catches. He's got some size, 6'4", 215. Malik Rutherford, he's also a guy that's going to look to hurt you with athletic ability. So I don't know if they really have the guys that can make plays downfield against this Georgia secondary. It's really shored things up over the last couple of weeks. KJ Bolden, Janelle Agoro have been the standouts there. Dalen Everett, Ellis Robinson. They've all been inconsistent in coverage. DeMello Jones, those had some great performances, especially against Texas over the last couple of weeks. So it seems like everything's pointing in the direction of Georgia Tech really struggling on this side of the ball. But you never know what could happen, especially with Haynes King at quarterback, and I think they'll have a pretty respectable effort in the meantime. Going to the final thoughts on the prediction, I think Georgia Tech can keep this one close for a little bit. I think they can hang around. I think their offense, especially if they get off to a hot start, will definitely be able to play this close for 4 quarters. Their defense has just been so disappointing the last couple of weeks. I know they've played some tougher offenses like NC State and Pitt, but Boston College, they're 1-10, and they probably should have beat them. They lost on a last-second field goal. I mean, it's just been disappointing from Georgia Tech. Tech, and I don't think Georgia is really going to slow down with their balance. Great offensive line in terms of size and physicality. The quarterback is very pristine with his decision making, and Georgia Tech just doesn't overall have the personnel to really match up in this one. So they're going to have to make it ugly. They're going to have to make it a dogfight, if you will, and kind of like last year, right? They're going to have to be great when it comes to their effectiveness on offense. And that's always possible with this group, and I think they'll do well, not well enough to win the game. I think it's totally possible that Georgia Tech just gets rolled by this defense as well, but I don't think they're just going to roll over, that being the Yellow Jackets. So I think they'll put up a heck of a fight. It's not going to be enough, though. Georgia will ultimately cover. The best bet is going to be the over 59.5. I think the Bulldogs will, stay with that one loss in their columns as they head into the playoffs. That's me for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.